Hello everyone, my name is Catalina Burke, and today I'm going to be talking about an Aesop fable and how it has applied to my life. The Seagull and the Kite is an Aesop fable that talks about contentment and minding our own business. This is a fable I relate to and have experienced on more than one time in my life, as the seagull, the fish, and the kite. Have you ever felt like your life was being controlled or picked on by someone else because they couldn't mind their own business? Or have you ever been that person to be too opinionated with others? We've all experienced moments in life where we feel discontent with the situations we're currently in, and sometimes this causes us to pry too much into others' lives. On the other side of that, sometimes we're the ones who feel like we are being treated poorly because of judgment or envy. I've most definitely been a topic of conversation because of judgment, and in the past, I've also regrettably been a person who's taken part in the gossip. We're going to look at the Aesop fable and see how much it relates to a time when many people I knew chose to involve themselves into a decision I made. Firstly, we're going to give our attention to the fable. The Aesop fable, The Seagull and the Kite, tells the story of a seagull who dives into the water after a fish that was too big. This ultimately led to the seagull's death. A nearby kite who witnessed the interaction told the seagull of the air that it deserved its fate because it had no business to seek its food from the sea. The moral point of this story is that we should all be content with ourselves and mind our own business. Let's talk about how the seagull diving into the water from the air and how it relates to how people can pry into places or situations they should not. The seagull became discontent in the situation it was in, and this led to rash decision making. For example, the seagull diving into the water after the fish when it shouldn't have. Had the seagull stayed content in the air, it would have never flown down into the sea and gotten hurt. This part of the fable shows how it's important for us to stay content in our own situations and not envy others or make decisions based off discontentment. This can also lead us to end up in situations we're not originally meant to be in. The seagull belonged in the air, and by going down into the water, it ended up in places it did not originally belong. This ultimately ended badly for the seagull. When we apply ourselves into situations that we do not belong, whether it's out of curiosity, envy, or judgment, it can end badly. We can see that this story makes it a point to note that the seagull is a bird of the air and the fish belongs in the sea, and discontentment ultimately caused the seagull to go in the water. Next, let's look at how this correlates into the behavior of those who choose to say or do things when it's not their place. A couple years ago, I was in a school program with many of my friends. Within this program, I had become friends again with someone who I had previously been hurt by. However, this person was my best friend. We reconciled and restored our friendship. Most of the people I knew in this program chose to then involve themselves, judge, and pick at me and my friend for choosing to be friends. I strongly believe many of these people chose to dive into my life because they were discontent with how things were going in their own. Eventually, they had to experience the kite, tell them to kindly mind their own business and not go where they do not belong. I was friends with many of the people who were the seagull in this story, and I know there were aspects of their lives they were unhappy with. Occasionally, when things go wrong in our own lives, sometimes we find it easier to jump into others, and I believe that's what happened here. I felt I was doing nothing wrong by carrying on with my own personal business until others flew into the situation. The funny thing is none of the other people had anything to do with this friendship. Eventually, these people just came into my life, swooped down, and caused me to feel judged. Eventually, these people were called out and realized what they were doing was not okay. This fable can help us to understand the importance of being content with our own lives and making sure we're not jumping into other personal business. To conclude, we went through and discussed the fable and discovered the moral lesson we can learn from it. I also shared my own personal experience and how it related to the fable. I hope we can all remember this fable when we find ourselves prying too much into other people's lives when we should not. Thank you all for listening.